Morning, Steve here in Chicago with the morning grain comments. Well, it feels like a Monday today, but it is a Tuesday. And we're going to get some data this week that hopefully brings in some trade volume. First off, we're trying to figure out what's going to happen this week with U.S. and China trade talks. The talks moved from China last week to the U.S. this week, and there's some people that hope there could be some agreement signed in areas which they agree. And one of those areas could be in the agricultural side. So we're hoping that they sign something and start buying something. The problem is that in China, we continue to see concern about the spread of the African swine fever and whether or not they need all of these commodities that they may agree to buy from the United States. And then finally, I think the market, whether it's equity markets, energy markets, or the grain markets, wants to see a final deal completed by March. One that kind of popped up on the radar overnight that wasn't really being a consideration at this time is the U.S. is suggesting putting tariffs on EU automobile imports. The EU this year is buying 165 million bushels worth of U.S. soybeans. So the soybean market could be concerned about if those tariffs are imposed, that it could impact demand for U.S. soybeans from Europe. One economist this morning was talking about if these tariffs are enacted, it could put Europe into a recession. The other thing is obviously the USDA is going to have their Outlook conference Friday and Saturday. They should give us some data on the 19 and 20 U.S. corn, soybean, and wheat supply and demand numbers. It could give us an indication of their thought process on acres, on demand, and on ending stocks. That could bring in some buying or selling depending upon what they say. Market's still looking for a little bit more corn acres out of the U.S. in 2019 and lower bean and wheat acres. The problem is that, especially in the wheat market, we don't know exactly next year what export demand is going to be. So carryouts could go up next year even if acres go down. Then as far as weather is concerned, it looks like Brazil's weather is mostly favorable for their crops. Their soybean harvest is near 40% done. Some people are a little bit below the 117 number that the USDA is currently using for bean production. But if China takes less beans in general, then maybe that offsets the lower Brazil crop. Argentina, especially the southern half, is getting dry. So we're going to have to watch that pretty closely and see if that impacts their finer corn and soybean crops. On Friday, we also get caught up with all the export sales data that has been not released because of the partial government shutdown, and we'll see if some soybean sales show up to China and what we've actually been selling recently to corn and wheat. Here in the United States, it's cold right now. It'll warm up by the weekend, but 6 to 10 day calls for more cold air and maybe more wintry type conditions. That slows cash movement, it slows logistics, and it could also be slowing demand. So we'll see after all said and done, U.S.-China trade talks, European tariffs, U.S. Outlook conference, catching up with export sales, weather, and we'll see if that brings in any new trading to the grains, sitting mostly in trading ranges since the beginning of this year. As always, these are my thoughts and not those of ADM Investor Services. Have a safe and profitable trading day.